Okay, so the dog we're working with today is Zoey. She's a former dog of ours. She was adopted out about 2 years ago, so she's been gone for 2 years. And she's developed some dog aggression over the past couple of years. I'll get more into that later, but so far I've introduced her to 3 different dogs through the fence, and each time she would get really stiff, snarl her lips, lift her paw, and then go after the dog through the fence. She's been corrected a few times for it, so she's starting to understand that she's not allowed to do that, and she will get corrected for it. This is actually the first time that she's really engaged with a dog. So far she hasn't reacted badly to Thor at all, but just doesn't want to engage. She would rather keep her back turned to him. So she seemed rather interested. He found the stick, and that seemed to pique her curiosity. So this will help to get her engaged with the other dog. Thor, of course, is being a butthead. He doesn't want to give up his stick. She's tending to yield a little bit when he comes around. So she goes off on her own, does her thing. But that was pretty good. It gave her good close contact for a minute. There was nothing negative about it, so that's good. So then I want to put her in her kennel and then switch things around. So I bring Thor up to her while she's in her kennel to see if she behaves any different when she's in the confined space. And she's a little disinterested. I want her to engage with her nose. She does a little bit here, but then she tries to escape. So I don't want her to avoid. I don't want her to escape at all. I want this last moment to be positive. We want to end this session on a good note. Okay, yeah. I push Thor up against the fence. She gets a little curious little sniff in there, and that's where we end it. So her last memory of him is, I was curious about that dog. It wasn't, I was trying to avoid him or some other type of negative experience. So now I have Thor and Princess in the pen, and I decided to try this off leash because initially what I thought was it was a barrier leash thing, and when she was with us before, she was in a large play group with lots of other dogs, but off on leash, when people weren't properly handling her or dressing her, some of the other little dogs would get kind of nippy out on the walks and bark at the other dogs and set them off, and then of course, then she becomes reactive, and it really set her off on a poor beginning. She was only 10 months old when she was with us, so she learned that behavior. She looks to me right there. She knows she'll get corrected for it, so she looks to make sure she's doing the right thing. You can see she's nervous and tense, and her hackles are up. Princess is a very teaching type energy. She likes to teach dogs, but she also has a very playful, kind of a more dominant energy, very forward. I'm a little surprised that when she jumped up on the fence that didn't cause a reaction. Princess will really try to engage her into play, and both dogs letting her know that they don't mean any harm. So yeah, she was off to a bad start as far as the leash goes, and the owner said that from day one she was always difficult and rather reactive when she saw other dogs out on leash. So that feeling of being held back from the leash or from a fence or a barrier can cause a lot of frustration in a dog. Sometimes it's just that the dog wants to go greet the dog and smell it and do normal dog things and be themselves. And the leash restrains them from doing that, and so they get very frustrated, and that frustration builds up and eventually can become aggression. Other times is the dog can have controlling behavior, and so they may want to control what a passing dog is giving to them. So obviously if that dog starts barking at them and reacting, this dog wants to go and take over and control that dog and let it know that it doesn't accept that. So they do a little bit of peeing and whatever around here. And then this surprises me. I was really surprised this quickly she goes into play right here. And she actually initiates it a few times. Right there. And this is good. This is good to see, which is why I normally will let them get to know each other for a few days through the fence, so that they can kind of work things out a little bit before actually meeting each other. And then also that first initial meeting, I'll let them do this for a good 20 minutes and let them tire themselves out so that it's not all crazy when they first meet. Like I said, those first few minutes of interaction is when stuff's more likely to happen. Everybody's going to be posturing and trying to figure out what place they're going to be in. So the fight that she got into, the first fight, like I said, after 2 years of him having difficulty walking with her and all that. So she was in the car. It was a minivan with one of those automatic sliding doors, and the neighbor's dog was out. Now she may have been focused, not barking or making noise, but looking out the window of the car with her ears forward, focused, knew that dog was out there. And so when the sliding door was closing, it bumped into something and started going the other way and opened again. And she saw the opportunity and skirted out the door, went right after the dog, grabbed a hold of the dog, dragged him out into the street, and the owner had a heck of a time breaking her off. He actually put his hands in her jaw and pried it off and punctured his own hands just by the force that she was holding on, trying to get her mouth open. After that, she had 2 more incidents with their other dog in the house. Both times were for the same reason. They were pouring food from the bag into the food bin, and a couple pieces fell on the floor, and she just automatically went after the other dog as soon as those pieces hit the floor. So there's definitely a few issues going on here. She definitely did have like some kind of leash barrier type issue going on, but she'd also been to training boot camp for a month. They were supposed to be specializing in aggression, And they got as far as her being able to be out on leash with other dogs and walk past other dogs and all that stuff without reacting, which is fine if she's the only dog in the house. But since they have another dog in the house, you can't just keep her on leash 24 hours a day, you know. So she has to learn to be around other dogs and be comfortable in her own skin. You know, she can't just be going after dogs and controlling everything in that way. Which in the home, I think it's a possibility that, you know, she is now around 3 years old, and the other dog, I think, is 15. Anyway, it's an older dog. So she may be at that point where she feels like it's her turn and she can take over. And she's not doing it in the best way. So there's definitely some leadership that can be put into the mix so she doesn't, you know, feel like she has to be the one in charge. Dog eating grass, being a pain in the butt. A lot of times they'll stick their paws through that, start batting at each other. And I'm surprised she took this. I mean, they were just like batting her right in the face. But there's a much more relaxed dog right there than before. And you would almost think that you could just open that door now because everybody's in such a playful mood that it would be okay. But that's not really the case. But right there, I mean, you could see she wants to, you know? She wants to be able to do this. But we can't stop it here. We have to go further. And because we know she's insecure dominant, and in her case that means that when she feels pressure from another dog, her instinct is to immediately just go after them. You know, some dogs will avoid, and they'll want to just, you know, go back inside or whatever, which she'll do at some points, because that's when she's understanding that she's not allowed to go after the dogs. Then she'll want to avoid, which again is good because it's avoiding the fight, but we ultimately want her to be comfortable in her own skin around these dogs. They are going to bump into her, they're going to step on her, they're going to mock growl as they play, they're going to bark at her, and she needs to be used to all that stuff and understand that nothing bad is going to happen. Neither one of these dogs mean any harm. And so the next step at this point, that's great right there, we got a lot of kissing, licking behavior, is we have to put a muzzle on her and bring her out with the dogs. So now she has the muzzle on. And the thing about the muzzle is it can kind of subdue their personality a bit. So now she knows, I'm sure, that she has no defense. So she's going to be a little bit more uncomfortable about being around the dog because, you know, she can't defend herself if something were to happen. And we want to let her know that nothing bad is going to happen and that we have control of the situation. Thor is, of course, very curious. What is that on your nose? But his approach is generally pretty good, even though it was face-to-face, and that was probably a lot of pressure for her. The way he comes in with his head low and, you know, tries to get underneath her chin to get a sniff in. That's a non-threatening way to approach. That. Now that he's gotten over the muzzle thing, he really tries hard, you know. He wants to make her feel comfortable. And he's really good about it. He understands. He sees that posture, that stiffness, and he's okay, I'll leave you alone. starts to relax a little bit when he does. See, he's such a good sport. He really tries hard. So now we go and get Princess. And we bring Princess out. Now she does not approach the fence at all, and it takes Princess about 1 second to get over there. She tends to charge right in. Right there. I couldn't see her face, but I can almost guarantee she was snarling. Starts to lift that, get real stiff. Lift that leg up. That's good. She's engaging in smell. And Princess really wants her to. A little over the top. Princess is basically saying, hey, I'm the one with the energy to be the leader here. That's a little bit much going on top, a little much too soon. She gets a correction for it. So yeah, that was going to be a bite right there. So we want to get things moving, get everyone moving forward as a group, give her a sense of belonging. Her instinct is to want to avoid, and Princess is putting a lot of pressure on her to try to engage her. Like I said, she has that kind of more dominant but teaching mentality. She does do a lot of blocking and hurting at some points. You know, I'll call Zoey over and she'll block her from coming, so I have to correct Princess for that because she's kind of stepping on my toes a little bit. When I call the dogs, I want them to come. It's a little better. I mean, like I said, I think she feels a little bit more comfortable with Thor than she does with Princess. Thor senses that she's not comfortable and he just gives her some space. So ultimately what a dog like this needs, and it takes a while, she needs to be in a group of dogs and be around, you know, different dogs and different personalities until she feels comfortable. And she may huddle up against the garage door wanting to go inside and not engage very much at all. And there's usually possibly somebody in the group that she may gravitate towards, you know, like Thor makes her feel more comfortable, so she may end up gravitating towards him a little bit more. And also, she'll witness the dogs doing dog stuff and playing and doing all that, and eventually she'll want to join in. And a lot of times it's little bits, little, like when she smelled Thor before Thor went in his kennel. Like it's like she'll catch herself smelling him and then go, yeah, I'm not supposed to be relaxed, and then she'll try to move away or she'll get tense again. Right, right there. The lip goes up. Hard to see through the muzzle, but the lip goes up. Once they start to show their teeth like that, that is going to be a bite. You can see that's coming. And that's her thing, is she'll lift her lip and she'll lift up one of her paws and then she'll strike. A better thing for her to do would be to posture proudly and swing her butt into the other dog if she doesn't want to be bothered. That would be a better signal to give the dog that she's really not in the mood to play or whatever at this point. And then go about her own business. You could see it right there. She wanted to lift that lip. And Princess came in. So Thor, he's putting in such an effort. He really wants her to feel comfortable. He really wants to let her know that he is so non-threatening. And this is probably the most relaxed I've seen her so far, with the muzzle on anyways. But still, every time the dogs come near, she does get nervous. I mean, that should be a clear signal to her, but she just can't take it, and she has to try to move away. Bit of pressure right there. Not too bad. I think she's starting to understand at this point. So again, we don't want her to avoid. So you just kind of keep things moving. So even though Princess can be a little bit pushy and a little bit controlling, she does have a good positive energy, and she really doesn't mean any harm. She's more the type of dog that's going to use her energy rather than violence. That's another avoidance right there. Just going to bury her head in the sand. So I'm going to take the sand away. So she had off camera snapped at Princess and gotten corrected for it and downed and relaxed, which you're going to see in a couple minutes. And this became her new thing. Every time she felt pressure, after stiffening up like that, she would just lay down. And that's slightly better, but still not completely relaxed. Getting a little nervous there. That's a lot of pressure. I would say normally she would not put up with that. There's a lot of pressure. That shoulder bump controlling, thou shalt not pass, thou shalt not lead. And right here, the lip goes up, boom, right there. So that was a bite. That would have been a bite. And quite possibly a knockdown, drag-out fight. And that's why we need the muzzle. You know, within the group of dogs, because eventually I'd bring the other dogs out, but I only have the 3 e-collars. But within the group of dogs, she'll typically find one that she's a little bit more comfortable with. And since Princess is putting a lot of pressure, it's not Princess. So by putting her down, I mean, I'm not forcing her down or anything like that. I'm not tripping her and grabbing her and body slamming her or something. But she, you know, I nudge her down and I ask her to comply. So she's not allowed to pick up her head. If she lifts her head, I'll nudge it back down. Her limbs need to be relaxed. So her back legs at this point are relaxed, but her front legs, she's holding tension in her shoulders and the back of her neck. So I'll massage that out of her to relax her. I want her body to relax and then her mind. And I'm not rewarding what she just did. This being down like this is a punishment. But I'm letting her know that I disagreed with that behavior and that mindset that you were in. And when I relax her and get her all calm, her body will be relaxed, and then her mind will start to relax, and she'll start to get sleepy. And that's when I'll stop, and I'll give her permission to get up. And by that, I just stop doing this, and I just walk away. So he's doing a really good job, making a good example. So you can see it in her eyes. She's starting to relax and get sleepy, and we're done. So we just walk away. So basically we're saying we disagreed with that aggressive behavior. When you're nice and calm and relaxed, we're agreeing with that behavior. Now you can get up and join the group again. So even with the muzzle on, this would probably take a good week or even more, you know, it's hard to say, till she's relaxed and she's engaging in play without the fence there like she was before. And then after a few days of it seeming rather warm and no incidents, then we could take the muzzle off. And we could see if that personality comes out when she has the ability to defend herself or address other dogs. But I have to keep the other dog's safety in mind, and I definitely don't want a huge fight breaking out. It is no fun, especially when you're by yourself and you've got multiple dogs that need medical attention and you can't put them all in the same car. It's not fun. You gotta start calling people to see if they can come help. And so at some point, there's some people come up to the fence, and actually I think that's their car there. They start asking me questions, and then they come in, and some other guy pulls up and thinks we're open, and he starts asking me about cats, and I don't have the answers, and he starts getting all mad at me, and he wants to go see him, and he starts to kind of get irate. So at that point I just brought her back inside and dealt with the people. But anyway, so her owner changed his mind, and he still wanted to work on it, work with her, and take her home and try it out. So he's going to send her to a different place, and hopefully they can do what we're doing here and bring it further and get her to the point where she's okay socially around other dogs. Once other dogs are running around playing and she starts to feel like she wants to join in, she might even come out and do a few play hops. And there might even be times when she catches herself doing it and goes back to this old state, like, oh yeah, I forgot this is the way I'm normally when I'm around dogs. But eventually they come out of it. And it just takes time. I mean, there's really no magic cure for it. You just gotta let her deal with it until she's comfortable with herself around other dogs. And of course she has to understand the rules, that we're not going to allow fighting, and we're not going to allow her to control and address other dogs and take over. The more she sees that we control her and the other dogs, the safer she's going to feel knowing that somebody's in charge. So I know a lot of people will say, oh, you just let the dogs out together and they just deal with it. But yeah, Princess's instinct is to want to control her and want to dominate her. She's pretty much begging to be dominated. But she's not just going to give in easily either. So if I have a dominant male, Shane, if I took him out there, his instinct would be to dominate and control her, like, to no end. And that would end up in a pretty bad fight, there's no doubt. And sure, they may fight it out, and he may win, and he may conquer her, and she may submit after that. But we definitely don't want to go through all that. It's better if they understand that, somebody who's calm and in control is in charge, and they don't use violence. They use more energy, and then she'll pick up from that. Some dogs are great with it, and actually Princess is good. Even though she is being more dominant, she's using more of her energy than anything else. I mean, actually, she's not showing any violent tendencies whatsoever, even after being snapped at. So if you have a dog that behaves like this around other dogs, yes, you can fairly easily get them to be non-reactive in the vicinity of dogs, so that you can walk them on leash and they're not going to go crazy. But in close proximity like this, it's going to be a different story. And it can be very costly because, like I said, it does take time. There she goes again with the laying down. She feels the pressure, she lays down. Princess didn't agree with her leaving. So even though I said come, she's trying to block and control her. And then here comes the people, and they just kind of interrupt the whole thing. So yeah, if your dog behaves like this, this is really the only thing that you could do. And if she's the only dog, or if it's the only dog in the house, not such a big deal. But because there are 2 dogs in the house, this really needs to be worked through if it's going to be successful. And I hope for the best, because I really don't want her to come back. I don't like it when dogs come back. It's possible that, there were some signs or signals earlier on, or some things that could have been addressed or done differently to prevent this. I think a lot of it, like I said, was learned behavior because of the different people and the different energies while she was being walked by volunteers, not correcting her, not addressing the dogs that were causing her to react. And then, it just kind of becomes a habit after a while. And something as stupid as, me telling you the dog must always be in heel, and people think, that's not important. this is why it's important, because it can develop into other things. It can develop into leash reactivity and barrier reactivity and controlling behaviors and frustration, and then eventually aggression. You know, it's just one thing will lead to the next, and that's what happens. You end up with a dog who's just aggressive or insecure around other dogs. And now that she's gotten into some fights and she's gotten into some trouble for it, it's going to make her even more insecure, you know? Like, is every single dog out to get me? You know, I got to get them before they get me. If your dog is like this and you need to do something about it, definitely contact a trainer. And it's probably going to be at least several weeks in a board and train, which you're probably looking at anywhere from $3,000 to get through this. I hope that helps. Good luck.